My guest today, Emilie Roell, is a social entrepreneur based in Asia, dedicated to the preservation of world's cultural heritage and nature. Also has a strong interest in leadership development. Her work focuses on founding and supporting social businesses that make use of and preserve culture and natural capital while creating sustainable community impact. In Myanmar, she established her company Doh Eain, a participatory design venture, restoring heritage buildings and improving public spaces, positively impacting the livelihoods and quality of life of thousands of Yangonites. In this episode, she shared her valuable lessons and experiences with us. Also, she inspired us, especially by her thoughtful and yet humbling persona as a great placemaking leader. Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone. I'm Asban Sari, the founder of the organization Peacemakers Pakistani, and I'm bringing you the stories of placemakers, artists, and professionals from around the globe about how they created an impact and made change happen. You are listening to the Making It Happen show. Thank you for joining in. Enjoy the episode. So good to see you. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Okay, so you are in Russia right now?
No, I'm in Georgia. It's next to Russia, but no, it's a separate little place. Yeah. How about yourself?
I'm in Lahore, Pakistan. In the city
Okay.
of Lahore,
Yeah.
Pakistan, yeah.
Yeah. Are you? Is that your hometown or?
Yeah, it's my hometown.
Yeah. Nice. Nice.
So Georgia is your hometown or not?
I'm not from here, but this is one of the places where we're starting work. So here, been here for about 6 months now, 5 months, to get things going here. Yeah.
Great. Okay, so how was the pandemic? How did it go? Where were you then?
Oh, I was in Myanmar until last year. So for most of the pandemic, I was in Myanmar. But then in the beginning of 2021, there was also a military coup there. So I still stayed there, but halfway in the year, I came here because we decided to focus our work more on new countries, because things are very difficult in Myanmar now.
Yeah. All right. So shall we proceed with our interview, with our question answer session? Okay, so Emily, tell me about the place where you live and your attachment to it, so we can have a little bit know how about you.
Yeah, so I am originally from the Netherlands, from Amsterdam, but I moved to Asia in 2013, so about 9 years ago. And I have spent most of my time since then in Myanmar, and working on placemaking and heritage preservation in Myanmar. But as of last year, also due to circumstances in Myanmar, I have kind of continued my journey a bit. We are still working in Myanmar, but we are also starting in new countries now. And personally, I have moved to Georgia, a little less than half a year ago. So I'm currently living in Tbilisi, which is the capital of Georgia, which is a wonderful, wonderful city, very historical, very, very beautiful. It's a small city in a little valley, with lots of nature around, lots and lots of historical layers. There's a very ancient, sort of medieval part of town, and then there's a sort of more recent kind of European level, and then there are the Soviet levels, and then the very modern levels from the last 20, 30 years. So a very interesting place that I'm starting to unpeel and understand, and it's a great context for our kind of work.
All right, interesting. Okay, how did you find your passion and for preservation of the world's cultural heritage and nature?
Yeah, so I think there were kind of two different directions that kind of led me to where I am now. Like privately, I've always just been a huge fan of nature and of history and of kind of all the lessons that are past and that nature hold for us. I think, we kind of always rush through time, and societies just evolve and develop and follow up one another. And there's so much that you can learn from understanding the past and understanding your environment. So that was always there. Work-wise, when I started my career, I was working very much on participatory governance, on decentralization and citizen participation in local democratic processes. Because I very much believe in the power of people to participate and help shape their places in their future. Originally, I was doing this more on a more abstract governance level. But about 5 years ago, I brought my passion for nature and culture together with that interest in participation and bottom-up sort of co-creation processes. And that's how things have come to be where they are now, where I work on the preservation of cultural heritage in this kind of participatory placemaking approach.
Great. So it must have been a journey.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so how do you find placemaking movement helpful in supporting your passion?
Yeah, it's interesting because when I first started my work around preservation, I was actually not aware of the placemaking movement. My work in preservation started purely just from the observation that in Myanmar, where I used to live, that there was just a lot of incredible cultural heritage, and that a lot of people didn't per se realize what there was around them, and didn't really know or have the means to protect it. And that people were kind of swept up in this wave of quick development and urbanization and growth, because Myanmar was growing very quickly from 2010 till 2020. The city was really very rapidly developing, and people were kind of not standing still with what they were leaving behind or forgetting about in the rush for progress and for development. So my work started just as a private citizen, trying to do small projects to just create attention and awareness for the public spaces that were starting to disappear, or for the old buildings that were getting demolished. And I was doing quite sort of tactical work, like events or small demonstration projects. And it was only after I was doing that for a year or so that people in the placemaking movement kind of found us, and I started talking with them, and that I realized that I was actually doing placemaking, which I then started learning a lot more about and started using much more as a framework. And what I find really valuable about the placemaking movement is just the fact that it's really bottom up and it's really open for everyone. It's not like driven by technical jargon. It's not very institutionalized or technocratic and something that normal people don't feel comfortable with. It's very kind of simple and accessible. And I love that it's all about small actions that can display big ideas. And I think it's a great way to sort of start shifting mindsets and start creating movements that can then feed into and lead into bigger change.
Right, very right. Yes, that's how I think we are all natural placemakers if we are just taking some action, because that's how I came to know about the movement, that it's the whole movement to make changes for the public spaces and for the people well-being. So that's I get to relate to. Yeah. Okay, so how would you explain natural resource management and its significance for our livable city?
So national resource management is not per se a framework that we use very actively in our work. I think in principle, the meaning of it, the sustainable utilization of resources such as land, water, the air, biodiversity, plays a very central role in the way that we approach placemaking and urban regeneration. in the sense that we treat a lot of these natural resources as assets or as strengths and resources that exist, and that we try and leverage and bring out more and reinforce to support the well-being and sustainability of parts in the city. So yeah, it's a useful framework in that way to really be mapping out natural resources that are there and to kind of leverage and manage them in a proper way.
Okay, so how would you explain the importance of user-centered design thinking, and how do you ensure that people contribute to the discussion that is not their area of expertise, but vital for their living, health, and benefit? Like just to ask them to communicate their needs and what do they need, instead of being insecure of that it's not their professional area, or maybe people I just see people hesitate before sharing their ideas because they think that professions can do best. So how do you communicate to people like that?
Yeah, I think it's if you're designing solutions for other people, like the people that are going to use the solution or make use of a place or a building or any design that you've made, they're ultimately going to know best what works for them or what pleases them or what has the desired effect on them. So I think it's crucial to involve the end users in any design process. And I think the way to do that is to really learn as an organization how you can kind of be where the people are and mingle with them and kind of approach them on that neighborhood level, and have a conversation as equals. I think in our organization, Doh Eain in Myanmar, we have always made a very conscious effort to not position ourselves as a fancy design group or position ourselves as a very technical architecture group or whatnot. We have always positioned ourselves as fellow residents of Yangon and fellow property owners or fellow cyclists or fellow pedestrians. And we've always invested very much in our relationships and our networks in the city. So we're quite embedded. And I think those relationships and the fact that we really make an effort to meet people where they are and in the places where they are. So we don't invite them to a shiny office, but we hang out on the streets or we hang out in the neighborhoods, in the areas where we do activities. I think that makes that we can have very sort of just open co-creative processes on very equal terms.
Yes, I agree to that, because doing things in the open environment or in the public spaces encourage the idea that we are here to use it. We are here.
Yeah.
It opens the mind in the same place that needs to be used, I guess. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so guide us about the citizen-led heritage conservation and urban regeneration. How is it different from conventional methods, and why is it important to do it with the help of citizens? Same question, but yeah, it has to be. Might have some different answer.
So I think the way in which we approach heritage preservation specifically is quite unique. There is a big cultural heritage preservation movement all around the world, of course. But what you sometimes see, as well as with urban planning and other disciplines, is that this sector can be quite top-down and quite technical again, and even a little bit patronizing, where experts proclaim the importance of heritage and tell the people what should be done to protect the heritage, to the extent that sometimes normal people or like owners of heritage buildings or people that live in certain historical areas, they're almost seen as the problem because they might not be looking after the buildings well enough, or they might not be respecting some rules. And so sometimes heritage preservation can almost be like this slightly, I don't know what the right word is for it, but like a little bit of a arrogant or patronizing kind of movement that might even treat people as the problem. And so what we're trying to do is approach it completely the other way around and try and understand people's relation to the heritage that they might own or that they live in or live around, and try and really understand the relation they have to it and the attachment they have to it, and try and encourage and support their sense of value to that heritage, which might not be because it's a unique building style, but it might be because 10 of their generation's family lived in the building and they have a lot of memories there. So it's really about trying to understand the everyday meaning of heritage for the people that live closely in and around this heritage, and then kind of finding ways to create more of a sense of ownership and stewardship over this heritage, and start a dialogue around it, how this heritage is important for them, but also how it's important for other residents in the city, how it might be important as a window onto history for people that come and visit the city. And so, again, in this sort of bottom-up way, we really work together with citizens on heritage preservation. And in the way that our model works, we work specifically with owners of small heritage buildings. We provide them with loans and with the technical support and all the networks to invest in their building and to secure their heritage building for the future. But they are the key agents in it, where we're not telling them you have to keep this building and you have to preserve it in this way. We're trying to turn it around and find out what attachment people have to it, and then offer them the tools and the financial means to keep the heritage protected.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, this is something interesting because definitely the way I was just looking for the answer that how do you put things in action? We get to see, we receive people opinion, but how do we implement it? Because people are not, the citizens are not going to implement that, or they can't preserve it, or they can't safeguard it all the time. But yeah, the owners have to be the part of it. They have to be, they have to take the responsibility for the change themselves. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and very often people are very happy to, if you really treat them as as central agents in it, and people that have an important role to play. We always try and appeal to heritage building owners as guardians of history and people who can play such an important role, and we're celebrating them and we're applauding them for the things that they're already doing, and we're trying to approach it as a glass half full rather than a glass half empty, and then try and get the glass more full through our support with that approach. But I feel like I've seen too many times that actually the inhabitants, like the residents of an historical neighborhood, or that they're people that are being approached as the problem, and then there develops this divide between the conservation groups and the people. And the conservation groups feel that the people don't care, and the people, they feel like there are unrealistic demands that are made of them. I think these two things can connect in a different way.
Definitely. Okay, so what are the social challenges being faced by Asia in general that needs to be addressed and resolved, according to you?
I think the biggest one really is just how quickly Asia has been growing over the last decade or so, 2 decades, and just the immensely rapid growth and urbanization and population growth, and the pressure that has put on resources, but also the big inequality and other divisions that has led to. So I think there's a big challenge still ahead in Asia to address these issues of inequality and divisions along ethnic or religious lines, and really try and support more public and common goods, and for people to feel connected around the same public goods, and feel the richness of what there already is, rather than this focus on growth. Because I think a lot of the things that exist in Asia are maybe sometimes things that people in Asia don't really like, the special things that people don't always realize or fully appreciate for their specialness, in maybe the hurry to modernize or develop further. In Yangon, for example, in Myanmar, a big goal for many people, or like the ideal image of a city, is often Singapore, something that is very clean and very neat. And Singapore has many strengths, and it's not a bad place at all. But I think Yangon has also a lot of very unique and beautiful strengths, like the kind of neighborhood relationships that exist and that sort of tie back for centuries, and the displays of diversity, and the ingenuity in terms of dealing with environmental challenges. And I think really that appreciation for what there is. I hope that will continue to also kind of spread. And I think it is, with a lot of young people who are seeing the limits of progress and modernization, or too quick modernization, and see the other strengths too.
Yeah, exactly. While you were talking, I was just thinking that, because if we lose our essence, then Asia will not mean Asia.
Yeah.
It will be another Europe.
Yeah.
I mean, we are losing our essence and we are losing our identity. We are just, if we are just too focused on copying other people or modernization. However, the traditional lives are more peaceful, more slow down. The abrupt change in the imbalance, and the imbalance in our lifestyle is something that's causing the chaos in the world. Exactly,
Yeah.
I agree, because since you are focused on the community development and the people potential, and the individual potential, so that's why you have just brought up the topic or the issue that is more engraved in our own self. It is collectively creating the chaos or the challenges in the world. So I would like to ask so I would like to ask you that, share your lessons on what makes individual people and organizations thrive, grow, and lead responsibly. Like, I'm sure you have some insight to it.
Yeah, no, it's a very big question. I think, for me, it all really starts with people, and really believing and supporting people, and letting them kind of find the essence of their own happiness and well-being, and this connection between meaning in their personal lives and meaning in their professional lives. And so there isn't really one simple answer to this. But for me, a lot of it is around just awareness of where we are in time and history, the limitations of our planet, the immense sort of historical cycles that our world has already gone through, and some of the challenge that we're facing in the future. And at the end of the day, when you kind of take that very zoomed out perspective, realizing what is important in our little lifetimes, and how we find the world and how we leave the world behind, and connecting to that bigger sense of meaning, but also how you connect to that sense of meaning in your everyday life, and the small actions or the small things that you pay attention to. For me, a lot of it is really trying to find calmness and trying to create calmness and space for reflection and for just being and observing and kind of becoming aware of how how things are just always evolving and how everything happens for a reason and how there are small interventions you can make here and there to kind of nudge things in a more beautiful way. And that doesn't need to be very grand, but just kind of understanding your place in the bigger picture and daring to lead from the heart and from that wisdom.
Yeah, that's very kind of you. That's very sweet. It's just it's very deep, and yet it's very considerate of you. Okay, so tell me that your studies were focused in different areas, and your company Doh Eain encompasses architecture, interior design, and urban regeneration. How did it happen, and how does your study support your work now? I'm very interested and curious about it.
Yeah, well, maybe my previous answer already betrayed me a little bit in the sense that I tend to take a very kind of zoomed out approach to life and society. And I think that partially comes from my studies. I actually studied philosophy, anthropology, and religion. And I think I've always been very, just interested in how people and societies have approached meaning in their lifetimes. And how they have constructed meaning and value and justice and I think it's really this awareness from philosophy, like how our outlook on the world and how our thought systems are always evolving, and how there have been these different historical phases in what we consider true or what we consider the right framework. My main interest in philosophy has been history of philosophy, but also phenomenology. And phenomenology is really about how our environments also shape our thinking, and so that there never really is just pure rational thinking that is unaffected by our surroundings, but that everything is always embedded. And the same is for anthropology. It's this, I think it brought me this deep appreciation for how different cultures and societies have looked at the same topics, the same universal topics, but constructed these in a different way. Similarly for religion. So, I think it's just helped me kind of have an approach on life where I just tend to kind of look at things a little bit more from a time in history perspective and a place in the world perspective, which I think helps to not be caught up in the moment and push for the things that might be kind of the mantras at this moment in time, but to observe a little bit more. I think another thing is also that I believe that the fact that I haven't studied the areas that I work on now is actually something that, well, in the beginning I was insecure about it sometimes. I think I've come to embrace it more as a strength, because I think I dare to make observations. I think I see things a little bit differently because I'm not embedded in the technical framework, and I think I dare to make very kind of human observations more easily. Sometimes if you're a long trained architect, you might be so kind of encapsulated in that architectural framework and how design should be done and what the right styles are and what the right process is, that it might become harder to actually say, but hey, wait a minute, does this make sense? Or is this actually still achieving the goal that originally we set out to be doing with this? I guess I tend to ask a lot of naive questions, or I tend to maybe propose sometimes quite naive ideas, but still in that I kind of challenge what these disciplines can be, and kind of together with colleagues that do have more technical approaches, we're able to come at new ways of doing things that are actually quite, just interesting and useful sometimes.
Okay.
How about yourself? Are you an architect by training? I'm not actually sure.
Yeah, I'm an architect, and it was interesting to know your background, that you have studied philosophy and phenomenology, anthropology. And the thing is that I was studying architecture, but my major interest or my hobby was to relate psychology, impacts
Yeah.
of architecture and built environment on human development, and their psyche and the philosophy, and that blend kind of thing. So I was just not too much interested in the technical aspects of things, but their meaningful aspect. So I was just enjoying your story, that this is how you have come to it and this is how I have come to it. So I just shifted my way from architecture to urban design, and to greater impact they are creating on human development and human well-being. I totally agree that we can delve into the technical aspects and lose the essence of creating things for people, rather than for our own self or the brand that we are portraying, which is the wrong thing, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, nice.
Okay, so let's move on to the rapid questions that I ask everyone, and you can answer them as you go. Okay, so what drives you or keeps you focused on the public spaces, or your passion for the thing that you are doing?
Yeah, I am. So it's been a bit of a journey, but I think probably 10 years ago or so, or even 5 years ago, I used to always have a lot of ideals and a lot of goals and a lot of things I was passionate about and a lot of things I wanted to work on and get something done around. And imagined I was going to do many different things in my life. But then I started this organization and I went kind of deeper and deeper into this one topic of heritage and public space. And I found it difficult sometimes because I am, like I was saying earlier, someone who likes to kind of take a broad view and look at different angles and approaches. And here I was getting deeper and deeper into one specific challenge in the world and one specific topic. But I've actually really come to kind of positively resign myself to that fact, because I also realized that if you just give yourself more time to really understand and focus on one area, you can go a lot deeper and you can do a lot more. And I think maybe also as I've grown a little bit older, I've come to appreciate sort of quality over quantity more. And I enjoy that I focus my attention on this one topic. And then why specifically heritage and public spaces? What I just really, really love about this challenge and this topic is that it's both very practical and very concrete and tangible, but it's also connected to big ideas and big thoughts around what creates well-being for people, or what makes people feel at home or have a sense of identity in their cities or in their places. I really love that. There's this direct connection between very tangible small interventions and very big ideas around resilience, around sustainability, around social cohesion, around identity. I think I'm really happy with the spot that I'm in, and very keen to just, through the lens of public space and heritage, try and have my small impact on the world.
Yeah. Okay. Heritage is basically the foundation of everything, I guess. It's the basics for the human connection and belonging, the human desire. We all desire the connection and belonging, and heritage is heritage and culture is the basis of it, as far as I have come to the terms with all the different areas of life. So if we are connected to our heritage and our culture on a strong basis, that's how we can have the connection belonging we so dearly desire, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Great contribution in this area. Okay, so what is
Yeah.
the proudest memory or proudest moment of your work life? Like you were so happy in that day, or the memory still brings you comfort.
Ooh, there are quite a few, but I think all those moments really center around, those moments when people or neighborhoods that you work with, when they really have come to kind of embody or have come to kind of really take on as their own or see as their own the thing that you originally set out to do. And I don't mean that in a way that you've kind of convinced them. That those were the moments that I kind of managed to convince people. More the moments when you kind of, where I managed to create the right sense of connection, where people kind of went like, hey, yes, and where they themselves became the advocates for the goals I and we were after. So yeah, I have to think of some specific heritage building owners who became amazing advocates for the work that we're doing, or I have to think of some various groups of young people who did incredible work in different neighborhoods in Myanmar and really became kind of leaders in their own way. I also have to think about a lot of our younger staff and people who've been with us. I think those are all the things that make me the proudest.
Awesome. Okay, and what was your hardest moment that was very struggling time, but you learned something from it?
Yeah, also not per se just one. I think there have been a variety of moments which were to do maybe with people that weren't happy in a project, or unhappy clients, or unhappy stakeholders, or also from our own organization, people that were not so happy in the board. I think by nature I'm a fairly consensus-oriented person, and I've had to learn to be more comfortable with conflict. But yeah, I think I've come to learn that if you kind of stick out your neck, you are just gonna rub people up the wrong way. Some always. It's easier to maintain consensus if you're kind of just laying low, but if you're fighting for things, there are always going to be people that will disagree or that will want it differently. So yeah, I think those moments in the beginning were probably the hardest, where I felt I was just creating a lot of disagreement or getting a lot of resistance from certain people or criticism. But it is also something that that I'm really a lot more comfortable with now. I think now the challenge is more around kind of maintaining your level of energy and well-being, that you're in a good place to always deal with criticism or hardships or things that might come your way. So that's maybe a general approach. I think I should also really say that an incredibly hard thing in the last year has been the situation in Myanmar. It's been an incredible disappointment to see this whole country fall apart again. This is not per se something that I feel is like, this is so much bigger than me and my work. And I don't feel personally disappointed by it, but I just feel incredibly sad for the people that we've worked with. I think our work being all about citizen empowerment and participation, we've invested and worked so hard on creating that sense of ownership over public life and that sense of creating and going after what you want. And there are lots of young people and older people in Myanmar who've really taken on that spirit, which was so great in the last 10 years, but now they're all being repressed yet again, and it's probably even harder for them because they had this taste of freedom and creation, and now none of it is possible again. And all the youth leaders and all the leaders that we've worked with, they're just kind of sitting at home and scared to do anything because the military might come at any moment. So that's just very difficult in this period.
Yeah, I agree. The lesson that you said, that with time you are getting comfortable with the conflicts. I guess that's a personal lesson or the advice from myself, because I get very discomfort. I feel uncomfortable when I face the conflict, but the thing that I remind myself is to find comfort in discomfort, keep going, and things like that. With time I'll get used, because there is going to be this segment.
Yeah, and I think it also really helps to understand where those people are coming from, and to realize that very often the people that might have criticism, have they tried themselves? Like, we might not always be doing the right thing, but at least we're trying, and probably you very much as well. You try, you go into things with a very open mind. You try and create an impact. You see how that goes. If something needs to be changed, you adapt your course a bit, but you're trying and you're doing it. And very often criticism also comes from people who probably maybe haven't taken a risk to give it a go and are kind of watching on the sideline. So I think to also take courage from yourself and strength from yourself that you're giving it a go is really important.
Yeah, and about for the people of Myanmar, I would say that there's always the light at the end of the tunnel, and maybe this darkness is just to conserve their energy and to come back even more stronger. So I hope they don't lose hope and they just stay there for a while and just have some great energy in themselves to come back stronger later. Okay, so do you have any mantra of placemaking? Like before you set onto a project, you have something in mind that I have to do it. Any favorite placemaking quote you have or something of that sort?
I don't really have a placemaking quote. I always take a lot of inspiration from Jane Jacobs. I really like that she was just also not a technical expert and just kind of took things on as a powerful woman and stood up against all the big male experts. Hers was a very different time, of course. I don't identify with her in that regard, and I come from a lot more privilege in a sense that the whole gender dimension is still there, but not per se in the same way. But I really like her approach to things. And other than that, maybe I take more of my inspiration from philosophers. There's a lot of philosophers that I really appreciate for them and for the kind of outlook that they preach. For example, Kierkegaard, Søren Kierkegaard, he's a Danish philosopher who kind of has a whole philosophy around experience, and he would always say that life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. And I think that's a very important kind of awareness to maintain. Like, what might be a solution now maybe isn't a solution anymore in 20 years, and to kind of keep that observation and openness for constant change, I think is very important.
Great. Okay. Do you have any opinion for Pakistan or placemaking in Pakistan?
I wish I knew more about the placemaking movement in Pakistan. I really hope that one day I'll be lucky enough to visit and maybe even do some of our work there. But as it is, I don't have a good view exactly on the different activities and movements that exist there. If anything, I imagine you have a country as well with such rich history and such beautiful variety of assets and heritage assets. Just really hoping and looking forward to seeing how those assets are being cherished, and how hopefully through placemaking you're also able to bring diverse people together and create this sense of appreciation.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully, yes. And I'm looking forward to learning more from you in this regard as well. Okay, so lastly, do you have any message for the global leaders out there?
Yeah, I think what I really hope and wish for everyone is just to really have that belief and confidence in yourself. Not per se that you're going to get it right away, but that you've already taken a massive positive step by just giving it a go and by starting to try. And by really believing that a lot of learning and wisdom will come as you go. I think don't worry about maybe not always getting it right or about making mistakes. Fully embrace that you are going to make mistakes, but just keep going and keep sort of humble around the fact that you might be making mistakes, but that the strength lies in doing it anyway, and keep learning. As you do that, I really think people should invest rigorously in their well-being, in just their own mental space. If you get too busy and too stressed, everything just gets cloudy, and that just never helps. And so really taking your own mental well-being and physical well-being as a priority, I think it's just so important to be able to have the space to make the wiser decisions, and to create rather than react. And similarly, also would really recommend to invest in your own leadership and your own kind of leadership skills, especially once you start leading organizations and groups of people. I kind of fell into this, didn't really have much experience leading big teams. I now lead a team of about 40 people, and it's growing quite quickly. And I think it's been very sort of useful and good that I and I didn't do this in the beginning, but that at some point I realized, like, okay, I also, if I take this responsibility for a group of people, I also really need to make sure I have the right skills and the right sort of ability to just make working together pleasant and constructive for everyone. So investing in kind of understanding your own leadership style, understand how it is for other people, invest in skills like communication or public speaking or listening or facilitating dialogue, so that you can really be that person that brings a group of people that you work with together in a constructive way and can help other people thrive.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this very precious advice. Okay, thank you so much, Emily. It was great talking to you. I loved the show. I loved everything you shared because it was very much relatable. I think we have a similar personality kind of thing because I do deep into things as well. Meanwhile, looking at the bigger picture, my interest is also in the bigger picture. But we have to focus on the small details as well. So it was lovely talking to you. I'm so glad that I get a chance to talk to you. Thank you for your time. I hope you have a great time ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me and for asking everything. Bye bye.